Well, there we go. A little bit more exciting music this time around rather than the ominous tone just before the main menu. As we can see in the background, we have ourselves the Eiffel Tower. And this game taking place during modern times. You can see modern traffic and different types of rail lines and such going through and around the city. And we will be designing, I think, a district probably closer to Notre Dame today, although we can choose a few different ones to design. Let's go ahead and start ourselves a new game as we are the head of an architecture firm who then can design all the buildings, plots, and the city itself, as I had mentioned before, minus modifying any of the monuments. I wouldn't imagine that Paris would want us to modify anything like that. So let's go with something to reflect our city building technique. Let's go with something like this, and we'll go ahead and call this one, let's see, our name will be, let's go with RAPTORIA Incorporated. There we go. Alright, so everything's set up for our architecture firm. Let's begin. Think about building inner courtyards. Okay, welcome to the strategic map. Here you'll decide what part of the city you want to transform. New districts will be added monthly during early access. Hover over different parts of the screen to help get help. Press F1 or click on the eye to close the help section. Double click on any open district to teleport directly there. Okay, let's begin then. Let's go ahead and close the tooltips for now, but take a look at the city. So, as I mentioned, we have darn near 80 different districts to modify. You can see different landmarks within those regions or districts as well, and the river passing through as well. We have ourselves, things like the Eiffel Tower, Arc de Triomphe, Notre Dame, and such, in all these different districts. And we have 4 to play with now. We can actually go to the Notre Dame district or any of the other districts as well, and load those in and take a look at what they're like. On the right side, we see all the different monuments or important landmarks that are in each district. So some have more than others, things like churches, malls, train stations, and different things that we can slightly modify. I think actually it'll tell us a little bit more about that too. Landmarks. Each district harbors a set of landmarks that are more or less famous. Landmarks represent the mere identity of the city, thus they cannot be they can neither be destroyed nor modified, but there are a few exceptions. So there are a few things that we can modify within those monuments. Main projects. Some districts have 3 larger architectural projects, aka main projects, awaiting to be built. You'll get to choose which one will be built, thus giving a whole new look to the neighborhood. Right, so different things like hanging gardens or MIR roar blocks, that type of thing. Let's go ahead and check out a different district and see what the other landmarks may be. Tectum, Garden of Eden. I believe there's 4 districts to start with so far. So each of them has, like, for example, the Notre Dame. We have St. Michael, Institute of France, Paris Mint, Gallia, Augusta, Prism. So different types of little things that we can modify or construct ourselves. Kind of cool. And it gives you a little detail on the district itself. Well, let's jump in and just take a look at what it may look like. Let's go to Notre Dame right now. We'll unlock that, and we'll jump in there. So to unlock districts, all we have to do is, basically design things and make the boroughs nice and make changes that'll unlock different districts via points, I believe. Not exactly sure how we'll do that when they're ready to unlock, but we'll take a look through time and see what happens. As you can tell, some of the city is just completely like low poly and whatnot. That represents districts that are outside of this one that we've unlocked. Very nice looking, though. Everything that is orange is a landmark within the city. Crazy. Welcome to the city view. Here you are, all set to work in Paris. You're the architect who will change the city of lights. In the city view, you'll explore the playground and decide which blocks you want to work in. Here you'll also gather information on main projects and landmarks. When you feel ready to start changing the city, select a block and open it from the drawing board, clicking on the green square. WSD and Q&E and different controls, the typical stuff. Well, there's the city. So this is a very small section that we get to work on. We selected a small section on purpose, but of course there's many different size districts across the city. We can see here the Paris law courts. Unfortunate, though, that it puts it into a low texture. This is fully modeled in the game, but you have to be looking at the appropriate district to see it. So things like, for example, the gardens over here would be modeled in, but you have to be within that district. I'd like to be able to see the whole city myself, but at least it keeps us focused on what is under our control. So we have a small park here. So if we want to, we can make a change to this with the green squares they mentioned before. We can also see the city in different types of light and whatnot. So let's go ahead and take a look at sunrise and sunset and snow and rain and such. This looks beautiful, though. You can see Notre Dame off in the distance, and the Eiffel Tower just behind that over there. A little hard to see at the moment, but should be right over there. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the different times of day. And you can actually see how the buildings will be affected, too, by the way you design them. How they'll appear during different times of day, and also rain and snow. Let's go ahead and change that to rain. And there you go. Kind of cool. You can see the oh, wow, the road is shiny, too. Yeah, how the lighting looks at different times of day and during different weather conditions. Quite neat. All right, let's go ahead and start by redesigning this park into some sort of building. And we can be focused on different aspects. Welcome to the drawing board. As any other architect, this is where you'll spend most of your time. You'll find here all the tools you need to create amazing architecture. If one is missing, don't worry, it can be added very soon. In the drawing board, you'll follow your inspiration, change the block, and design your own project. Pick a plot or several by keeping Control pressed. Apply a design to a new building, park, plaza, or parking lot. Yes, we can also build parking lots in this game too, which honestly is like an eyesore, but is necessary for cities to function. I actually saw a map of Detroit starting in the early 1900s going on into the 50s and 60s, and you can actually see the city being gobbled up by parking lot after parking lot after parking lot. There's a diagram on the internet that it looks rough. Where were we? Customize the height of buildings, the punctuation, the facade, roof shape, and material. Modify the lighting conditions in real time to make sure this is the project you want, and start construction in the city view. Like in the city view, you can show hide selection outline by pressing Alt. And then the X and Z axis. Right, so this is the small park surrounded by water that we saw earlier. So we can build a different building here. We don't have to just have a park. We can choose to have a high-rise commercial building or a small structure of some sort. Here's like a set of row houses inspired by Amsterdam. We can also pick different types of parks if we didn't like the one that was started there. And we can also change the lighting too, so that way we can get a better look at what it'll look during high and low light conditions, and to make it more appealing appropriately. Here's some of the parking garages. And so you can see it actually is modified to fit the exact size of the plot too. So if we pick a parking lot somewhere else, it'll actually reshape itself too. So we can have several buildings in the length like that. I don't think a parking lot would look very nice there, but it definitely is cool to see. Let's try somewhat of a modern building, like a, oh, there we go. Something along these lines. But more like a commercial building. So we can also keep in mind that we want to try to focus on other things such as profit, people, or the environment. So there's some buildings that are more environmentally friendly, some buildings that are a little bit more appropriate for humans to live in, more accommodating for life, and others that are just purely for profit. You can also see we can change everything from the tile styles. It's actually quite cool at how different we can make the roofs and things like that. So if you like yourself The Sims and designing homes in The Sims, this is definitely unique. One thing that was really intimidating to me in City Skylines is always wanting to design a building but not having the really the patience to try to design something of like, for example, this nature. So you can see all the different types of buildings that we can construct, this one being more for profit. They're all definitely nice looking buildings. Look at this giant high-rise here. They could be nice buildings in the appropriate area. Right here, this kind of looks like a, oh, it's a middle school, actually. So we could put a school at the back of the, island there. Wow, we can actually have a hedged rooftop if we want to. Wow, all the different options here. Well, I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect option because the city is ever changing. But let's try to build something, oh boy, something interesting to look at in the back of the building there. These might look a little too environmentally friendly. Although the office building, I will say, looks a little too bland. That looks like something out of a cyberpunk movie. And I think there is a way to also adjust the height of the building, too. Yeah, so we can adjust the detail or the height. Oh, boy. Wow, we can make a massive skyscraper there. Let's do it just to see how it looks, and we can always change it later. But this will be quite funny to see. So this is, again, not the choice we want to make, but the fact that we can do something like this because we want to is quite unique. So we can build a giant skyscraper in the middle of Paris if we want to. It's like a 100-story building right there. Definitely not appropriate for this type of landscape. So we do it again, right? So we can compare all the buildings around us and be like, oh, that's not quite right. And then we can go back and change it again to all sorts of different styles. This one looking a little more appropriate, though still a little odd. Let's go with something that looks more Parisian, though. Let's see if we can find something that somewhat matches the area. This, I think, is looking a little more appropriate. Let's change some of the roof tiles, maybe. Oh, wow, we can just put grass on the side. The fact that we have the option to do as we please means that we're in full control and that we're not limited by the game, which is quite nice. I like the roof style here. Let's go with probably something like this here. Not here. Not that either. I don't like that. Boy, that building looks quite odd. Let's go with this, and we'll just call it good. And we'll just give this as a temporary look, as we're just kind of giving this a first peek through. All right, so a building there. That looks quite nice. It blends in with some of the other buildings, these ones not having a real roof to them, like a flat roof, but different styles of tile on the top, and we can redesign all this stuff too. So look at this. Now we can build bigger districts and whatnot. I kind of want to take a look at the other districts too, but again, these would just be, for example, this area here would be from the north side of the island all the way up past the museum and the park there. So lots of things to look at. Now, we are not able to modify, for example, Notre Dame or the plaza in front of it, but we can read a little bit about the Notre Dame, beginning in 1163, using 52 acres of oaks, around 1,300 trees. There's so many different little facts and details in this. It's crazy. There's also a little mall nearby that we can read about, too. I believe that's on this side here. Somewhere there's a mall that you can read about. Oh, this right here, which closed in 2005, was the largest department store in Paris with 4 separate stores totaling 516,000 square feet. Cool. Well, really neat. All right, well, let's design another building. Let's do some buildings over here. Let's build something here next to the Notre Dame building, and then we'll go for a big one, too. Now, I don't know everything that there is to do in the game or how we'll unlock other districts and whatnot, but I do like the fact that we can easily design things and modify them within the city and then save them and hopefully see them from a distance. It will be nice in this game if you modify a district and it really looks great that you can see it while you're working on other districts. So you can look back on your previous work and kind of be inspired by what you did in one area to maybe keep it the same or different from another. There we go. We can modify the size of buildings again. Keep it tall or short if we want to. So 3 out of 50 stories, I suppose, is the difference here. And then, of course, many different options that we haven't even really taken a look at yet for modifying the exterior look. We can pop some of these balconies out. Look, that's amazing. We need to have something like this in City Skylines, and more options from, like, for example, the Sims in this game need to be brought into larger city builders where you can build on the macro level. But imagine building an incredibly detailed city like this without having to have a massive amount of mods, too, which increases the loading time, or rather decreases the loading time, which increases the play time, which makes it a lot more fun that way. All right, what if we make this kind of more of a different type of structure? Let's see if we can... oh, wow, we can build a alleyway between them if we want, or a modern walkway. These are different types of... types of building. This says middle school, too, but I wouldn't be surprised if we could put other things in there. It looks mostly like a library, but I would like to see some more commercial buildings down here. Although I don't want them to look kooky like that, especially not next to Notre Dame, which represents the city quite vividly. Wow. Look at all these options. Wow, that's an interesting looking 5-story building. Actually, that's only supposed to be 5 stories, but it looks like they added a few extra on. Oh, I guess it's like a buy one, get one free thing. Okay, let's try to do something that at least is somewhat, that kind of blends in. Let's go with one of the other options here. We'll go with the Hossman. And we'll modify things a little bit more just to see what we can do. Wow, the detail here is great. And you can see space at the bottom for things like cafes, electronic stores, and small little restaurants. And maybe bakeries and things like that. That could be all on those floors. Let's go with another one. Yeah, this is great. These buildings actually have commercial space at the bottom, so like little ATM sections and banks and things would be there. Let's convert these all to the same design. Although relatively boring, it kind of looks like it's part of the same construction. I actually like that. It looks tiered. 3 buildings that are taller and get smaller as we go along. That looks great. Let's modify some more things. Oh, we can make changes to the base. And we can add balconies. Wow, that's amazing. So we can actually make balconies that go all the way around the buildings too, or not. We can change it up a little bit. Although I think that looks much better. Wow, the amount of detail is incredible. All right, let's go ahead and build our project and see how that looks added to the city. I would like to be able to do it in real time, though. I would like to be able to not go to a drawing board, but to do it while I'm looking at it in the city. So, for example, to select this building and then be able to zoom in on it and look at all the other buildings nearby. You know, so that way I can kind of keep them similar or different to the buildings that are, wow, that are really nearby. This is a huge district here. Let's go ahead and redesign this. A large plot, if you will. Wow. All right, let's try to design a park, maybe. So I guess we're going to have to displace all these people. But let's see what we can do if we design a large park. So let's say we don't like any of these buildings and the city is designing a park. So let's convert all these structures to a park. And let's actually make it like a museum. Let's say that it's like, you know, there's a peaceful park around it, but that there's a museum space inside of that. Let's go ahead and remove all this stuff down to little parks. We're just experimenting now. And let's see how the parks connect together. It looks okay on this road, but no, a lot of the park pieces actually don't link together. Well, that's a little unfortunate. And these are some larger commercial buildings here. Well, we could convert these, though, into public squares with some not really great-looking art. It would be nice if we could actually take some more monuments, though. And, you know, historical figures and put them here rather than just generic art. Looks like it's actually making little parks for us, and it doesn't look like, unfortunately, there's not a way to modify this to have like a bridge or to design the pathways or to put anything, lighting, for example, in there. The parks are lacking a little bit, but I don't think you're supposed to really just go with a blank park. We're really supposed to use this as kind of a courtyard option, like this, for example, inside the building. This really isn't going to look that great, and in fact, let's go ahead and just see how ugly this looks. As is. It's probably going to look horrific. But again, this gives us ideas as to what we could do. Actually, it doesn't look that bad. I'll be honest. That looks rather nice. Of course, we could use this space a little bit more appropriately for commercial buildings and also residential buildings. But that looks at least somewhat like a decent park, I suppose. I actually like having a park down at this end to kind of blend in with the end of Notre Dame here. And look at that giant parking lot, too. This space could be a definite attraction over here, as people could just easily walk across. So let's design that again. Let's do a little bit more. So what I see here so far, I like. I want more options, though. It's the type of game where it's such an interesting and different game that you're like wondering, hey, can I build you know, a subway station somewhere? Am I able to build train stations? Could I put bus stops down? How can I connect to the city? How do I make it feel more alive? Not only do the buildings have to look good, but also if you're building buildings for people, then you want those people to be able to get around town by, you know, being able to get to things like bike lanes and carports and other locations in the city by taking mass transit. Let's try some other stuff. All right, well, let's start on our park at the end. Although I do like this type of building here. We'll have to find out what style this is. Don't automatically destroy all existing buildings of a block. Keep track of the past, even in your most futuristic creations. Ah, yes. So they're basically telling us, hey, don't completely delete everything, but, you know, we can do as we please. We can do whatever we want as we experiment. Okay, let's go ahead and try to add a little bit more something or other down here. I don't know exactly what we're going for, but that large space there looks nice. We have a Japanese-styled and an English-style park that we can do as well. English style at least looks more, even though it's English, it looks more like it could belong to Paris and be a type of French style. If we keep clicking, does that change? Oh yeah, so as we click back and forth between the two, it seems to pick a random design. Unfortunately, for all the options that we have for modifying the buildings, we don't really have an option to, for example, build a path here to connect the whole park together. So I think what we'll do is we'll just leave that as is, and we'll leave this park here, and we'll start building some buildings around that. So let's go back to our tried and true Haussmann. But I really like these types of buildings here. I don't know what these are. I wish there was a way to give me more information at a glance. Looks like there's different types of tiered buildings. I really like how small these are. It makes the park look a little more impressive over here on this side. And we'll also keep a courtyard on this side. So let's build a building here. We'll go back to our tried and true Haussmann, I suppose. And then we'll try a different building. And maybe even do a carport for the nearby Notre Dame. even though it's not going to be great. Well, looks like we can get some weird-looking corporate offices. Let's go back to our other building. Looks like I deselected some of those. These are... I'm not exactly sure what all these options are yet. There's a lot of things to learn in this game. But as for a first look, I'm quite enjoying myself in being able to kind of lay things out and experiment and see them in real time by just simply clicking to see what the differences between these buildings are and how they function. Let's see. There could be an option for this, I just don't see it. There's quite a few options on the screen, including the ability to adjust the sun so we can see things like that in real time. Again, is very nice without having to put the building down and then decide to get rid of it or keep it later. I think these buildings really blended nicely here. Oh, I do like this little walkway there as well. Alright, let's go with a more modern building on this side. Something over here. Some of these look a little too... yeah, here we go. Some sort of a nice... oh, actually, let's see if we can add on to that. Where was that building? Ooh, I'm going to have to keep track of some of these. Some of these are quite nice. Wow, all the options to play around with are really cool. How did I find that one? I don't even recall. Oh, wow. Oh, these just, oh, wow. What is that? That looks like a futuristic, like, police department of a dystopian future. I do not like that at all. I don't like that. Looks like we found the building, though. It's this one here. So we can actually add on to this and make it look like a hotel or something from the past. Actually, it does look like a resort rather than anything else. That's kind of cool. Let's add some trees to the sides here. There we go. I guess we'll add just a few things to make it look a little more luxurious. Let's add the few remaining buildings around us. And let's just try to see what other styles might fit here. Although they might not look so great. But at least we'll try something different. This building looks a little interesting. That's kind of more of a modern, almost like a modern hotel or apartment building. And again, another eyesore. Jeez. But these will bring us profit and such. So we can affect the city by basically rezoning for commercial or light commercial or residential. Ooh, I like the fact that this actually has a clock on it. Let's keep that there. All right, let's add a few buildings to the side. Let's do a corporate office, but let's try to keep this one minimal. Although this one's 3 stories, but it's still very tall. I wish we could make that building, but very short. Very short. This is a middle school here, so let's keep a school. And again, another large building. I'm really hoping to be able to build a smaller parking garage or something here. Let's give it a try, though. Let's take a look at the different garages. That actually looks nice, and that will fit in with the Notre Dame section on the other side. In fact, actually, there's a road here, so let's make this all a car park. And let's see how the 3 look different. Yeah, let's make a large car park there for the monument on the other side. For the Notre Dame and all the other stuff nearby. And I think we'll just leave this area with grass, but let's put some buildings down here. I kind of want to try to keep as much grass around the landmark as possible and make it look somewhat different. Let's go with a few different buildings here. And see how they stack up. Ooh. That's an alright looking corporate office. I don't like the exterior of it, but I do like the size of it. Although that just kind of seems like it doesn't belong, does it? Another tall building. Let's just go with our tried and true. There we go, that'll look nice. Alright, so from a bland park, a crazy, like a maniac designed it, such as myself, to something more like this. Okay, this actually looks a little bit better. And even the car park itself looks quite nice. You can tell that the vehicles can drive down there, but it does seem like it, I don't know, somewhat feels like it fits there as one of the, kind of, it has to be one of those necessary structures, just like if we were to see a, maybe like a, I don't know, like a police station or something that looked modern or something along those lines. Very nice. So we have our plot there, and it looks good. I actually kind of like it there. We got our park area, ways to walk between, and our little modern hotel with the clock on top. So it looks neat. It doesn't really look like it fits, but the building stands out as possibly something else. We can write our own story. We can design whatever we want. But again, the more we redesign this area, the better that it'll look. I almost kind of don't want to touch it. It already looks good to begin with. It's like saying, hey, take the Mona Lisa. Here's a bunch of crayons. Now go out there and make some fun. And it's like, I don't know. A lot of these buildings here look like they could be large universities or academies of some sort of, former military establishment or something like that. All right, let's do one more thing. I would like to redesign this area to be something else. And I think we want something other than the park this time. This is back where we started before. Let's design something here that we could be proud of. Not like a large office building or anything like that. Nothing real kooky, but we can go with the building that we had before. And something like that. But let's remove the roof from that one. Not that kind of a roof. There. That looks a little better. Even though the buildings have a different type of pitch. I wonder if there's a way to increase or decrease that. There could be. We can widen the building, of course, with balconies. But of course, this is near the rivers, so I wish there was a way to remove the commercial buildings at the bottom. What if we just wanted to make this all just one residential building? Seems like that might be rather impossible in the city. Well, let's go with that one again and see how it looks there. Okay, now we've got ourselves buildings that seemingly fit in. I think this roof's a little too highly tiered, but it does seem to fit in with a few of the other buildings around that have that type of roof. For example, this one here, just not as extreme as its 3 different buildings. Very nice. The fact that we can see all the monuments and read about them is really cool. Not all of them are complete, of course, but we can eventually make our way closer to there. So as you can see, the district we control is fully modeled and colored, and then as we get further and further away, it kind of just gets more blurry as we go on. But the fact that we can read about things is really cool. And I feel like I just want to... This is an ultimate chill game to just kind of design something as if you were the, I don't know, mayor of a very small district rather than just the entire city itself. So to be able to take this area and redesign it, redistribute all the buildings to be something else is quite cool. So we got our initial building back here that we constructed, which I think looks a little better than this building, but... Of course, we can redesign everything to basically be American or German or whatever we want. We can really make it a corporate haven, or we can make it like a tourist destination, that type of thing. But some of these buildings are almost just too nice to touch, to be honest. I wish we could go a little closer. This is about as far as we can zoom in. So this is the type of game that I rarely find myself saying I want more different types of things, meaning, I want more... I want to be able to zoom in. I want to be able to put down metro stations. I want to be able to make like corporate zones. So that way, we can put a McDonald's at the bottom of one of these buildings. It doesn't seem very appealing, but it definitely happens, and it brings in money. These seem to be bus stops here, actually. I can see a little road that goes through and comes back around. So maybe these are bus terminals. It doesn't necessarily say. But again, the city looks so great that I kind of don't want to touch it, but it definitely gives you ideas too, where you can build things and what it looks like, and you can change the whole feel of a district. Imagine doing all of Paris this way. Let's go take a look at a new district, and we'll see the intros for district number 1. Let's see how this looks. Nice that it gives us a little intro too. And it shows us the monuments there and kind of close-ups on the buildings that already exist. This is great. Now, I know there's some YouTubers that are doing a lot of Little Paris or Little France city skyline playthroughs, and so hopefully this will allow them to bounce ideas off of those playthroughs and those cities and be able to design more buildings within city skylines too. It's kind of cool to be able to have this as almost as a tool to already pre-existing game that really is enjoyable. So the fact that we can zoom in on things, see greater detail this way, and to be able to read a little bit more about it is helpful as well. So if we wanted to build a building nearby that looks somewhat similar, we can do that. This looks like a train station here to me. I have no idea what some of these buildings are, but they look gorgeous. Former train stations, maybe, who knows? Can we design anything here on the little island? Oh, we can't, darn. A large statue there and a beautiful little park at the end. I guess that's an appropriate use of the space. But again, everything looks so nice I don't want to touch it. Oh, there we have the Paris Law Courts there. Now we can see where they are modeled. Ah, and it looks like this district, because we've loaded it in, is Model 2. So we can actually see what we've done before. I didn't see that until just now, so that's really cool. So when we modify a district, it stays around. So if we want to have a completely different theme, or if we want to keep it somewhat similar because we're close to other buildings, we can do that. Or we can have a division point, like we're, for example, buildings on this side are more like the Haussmann, and buildings over here like the Amsterdam design. That's kind of cool. However, I would say the Quartz buildings here kind of dictates what we should do around it. Again, it would kind of look weird to have that giant corporate office just on the other side of the courthouse. But that's kind of how modern cities are. And as they advised earlier, we should think about keeping a little bit of the past as we do the future. However, I'd like to see, for some of these buildings, I don't know how exactly to copy and paste some of these buildings. I'd like to be able to do that. Like this one, for example, I like it. I don't know what it's called. But I'd like to be able to just kind of copy that design. Some of these buildings are so nice. Again, we can zoom right in to see potted plants on the balconies. We can actually see inside the buildings too. That's some really good detail. Like, look, you can see somebody's flat screen TV on a shelf. And the couch there. And little cafe tables. And you can almost read what's on the cafe board. Almost. And you can see inside to see, like, every little thing going on inside the buildings. That's crazy. If we could get new details like that in a new City Skylines, or, God forbid, a new Sims game. Rather, a SimCity game. That would be impressive, though. Very cool that we can see inside. Now, I wonder, if we change the buildings, does that change what's happening inside, too? Now, we can still see inside. Large TV there, too. Really neat. However, I will say some of these buildings just don't look like they... I always go for this building. I don't know why. I always want it to be shorter, but that's way too tall, honestly. And really weird looking. But it's okay. Let's do a little park plaza here. Not that one, though. There we go. Something like that. Let's save that design and see if it looks any different. Neat. Well, this is definitely a nice little sandbox where you could experiment around for hours, making all sorts of different little buildings. Very wholesome and humble game of being able to redesign stuff. Now, I'm hoping that there's more layers to this game eventually, like city happiness, or being able to fit more people into these spaces. So, for example, we could increase the population. Let's just say, for example, that 50,000 people lived within these two districts together. A lot of people, I know, but let's say that they wanted to increase that to 100,000, and we had to modify, like a goal, for example, like, hey, this district needs to be upgraded, but also keep a piece of the past. So you have to balance history and also affordability and also functionality and space, so everyone can fit into these areas. It'd be kind of cool. Oh, another little space for us to modify. I can't not touch these parks. They're too cool. I want more customization for the parks. That's about all I can say that's in the negative so far. And I also want a few more options to be able to find things and you take things from one area to another a little bit more. Now, I think there is a plot modifier in this game too. There should be a way to do that. Like here, for example, welcome to the plot editor. Redraw your block plots to get your creativity guide offer with your own urban planning. Now, I haven't touched a lot of this just yet, so it will be nice to be able to modify that a little bit more. I haven't had too much experience with this, but I think we can eventually redraw inside these and maybe split them in half or something so we can have two buildings. So if we split this here, we could build a building here and then a triangular building there. So that might be a way to do that. So that might already exist. But I'm going to avoid that for now just because I'm not exactly sure what it does. But again, it would be nice to build a park here and then a triangular building here. And I'm sure that's available with the plot options. I just haven't done enough with it to really know exactly what it does, but I'm excited to see, and I would love to play this some more. So if you guys want to see more, make sure you go ahead and click, tap, blow up, and destroy the like button. Thanks again for all the support and the positivity and all the awesomeness on the channel as we rocket towards 1 million subscribers. It's crazy. We're almost there. So thank you very much for joining me again for this game, The Architect Paris, available soon on Steam. Make sure you pick it up if you're interested in architecture and city skylines. I recommend it. Seems to be a fun little thing, and I have more to dig into, but seems like a lot of fun to be able to modify these buildings. And, of course, possibly modify some of the monuments with options in the future. All right. Well, you guys have been amazing. Thanks again for all the love, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.